Good morning everyone. Welcome to the course Python for Data Science. In our previous course we had discussed an introduction to data science and business analytics. In this we will use a tool called Python, which is actually a language. It's a general purpose programming language. We will specifically use certain modules of Python to do data analysis, right? So the presentation part of this course is going to be very low compared to the previous one, but the interactive part is going to be much high, right? So welcome to Python. Okay, this I'm glad you don't get the diagram, but the diagram is the Python swallowing something. Basically, it's not a Python. The name Python is not from the snake, it is from Monty Python. The designer needed a name that was short, unique and slightly mysterious. We are going to harness the power of Python. How Python stands out from other languages, it said Python has batteries included, right? So Python is powerful. It is a widely used general purpose, high level programming language. The design philosophy emphasizes code readability. Okay, make this a code readability is an integral part of Python. What can take you many lines of code in C, C++ will take you much fewer lines. The fewer lines of code is the reason for its popularity, right? Guido van Rossum is the creator of Python. The core philosophy is summarized by beautiful is better than ugly. Beautiful code here is better than ugly code. Explicit is better than implicit. Declaration, simple code is better than complex code. Complex is still better than complicated. Okay, readability counts. One of the unique thing about Python is white space is not just white space. You can't just put a blank anywhere. So white space is write space. So Python uses white space indentation, right, for some purposes, and we'll come to it. When you have functions, it will require you, it will force you to do indentation of the code. In other languages you can just simply run the code. In this it will force you to write beautiful code. Okay, click on python.org. Yeah, click on it. This is the home page. It's called python.org, right? It is one of the most popular languages. In fact, many people emphasize that this should be the first language that you should learn, right? Both in terms of ease of learning as well as usefulness. For many people who brought up in the schooling system, we used to learn basic, beginners all-purpose symbolic instruction code in the 80s. After that we learned Fortran, then C, C++. So by the time you come to Python, it's already the 4th, 5th language. No, even Eric S. Raymond from who wrote the Hacker Attitude said this should be one of the first languages you learn, which is why we have put it up front. Okay, go back to the PPT. Click on Beginner's Guide to Programming. So as is true of many languages that are popular, you will get a lot of tutorials on the internet. So the problem is not a lack of tutorials, the problem is excess of tutorials. Which tutorial should you follow? In our tutorial we have emphasized, like the language itself, cleanliness, to be to the point, right? Therefore, since our focus is on data science, we will overtly focus on statistical packages and data science packages, right? So the tutorials on this page are end with previous experience with programming languages, right? Come down, Python programming tutorials, right? Back basic to advanced, free Python tips, right? Google's Python class, interactive tutorials. So there are many tutorials. You may ask why one more, right? The problem of the plenty is you have tutorial 1 which is good in X chapter 1, what chapter 2 and 3 are flagging. Then you have tutorial 2, which is good in chapter 3, but chapter 1 is flagging. Our course is designed from a simple workflow that we learned from the data mining KDD section. We are converting data to information, right? So data to information is our goal, right? Selection, pre-processing, right? Transformation, then summarization, visualization, data mining. So we are going to follow this flow. So we will introduce you to the basics of the language, but many time you will see I will cut short that, because I don't want you to spend excessive amount of time learning about other things which are frankly irrelevant, because they are already included in advanced packages like pandas or NumPy or SciPy. So while try and create the function from the very beginning. At the same time, since most of you know R, I will try and emphasize the difference with R. Okay. So first of all, let's go for an installation. I hope all of you have gone for an installation, right? For the purpose of our class, we are going to follow the installation from Anaconda. Go Anaconda download, right? This will basically take you to continuum.io/downloads for your operating system. Now since we have Linux users and Windows users as well as Mac users, you will appropriately find a different thing there. Please start Python from the terminal, right? Just say Python. Okay, when you do this, it will give you the version 32-bit, right? This is what you see. So I typed Python here, got the console, then I typed quit. Within the console, this is generally given by 3, right? And I get quit. So installation is done for everyone. It's like slightly big, around 300 MB in terms of this, but what it does is it will not only give you Python, but it will give you other modules of Python which are necessary for us. So we will come to this in the interactive session, right? Let us first do the basic introduction. In the first session, we will just do the basic introduction, right? Python has many modules, right? You import a module using something like import NumPy as NP, right? If NumPy is the numeric Python which has many numeric functions, right? Then you will say np.mean and then the object name, right? You can also do that from NumPy import star. Basically this means that from the NumPy module you have imported every function, and once you have done that, you don't need to write np.mean. NumPy is, and we'll come to this, NumPy is a module in Python, right? Python is modular. NumPy is the module which does the numeric operations. It's a function library. All modules are function library. Other function libraries will be SciPy, scikit-learn, pandas, ggplot2, Seaborn, matplotlib, and I will introduce you to all of them. Okay, We will not rush through this. This is very important that you know what are, these are your basic tools. In R, you would probably use this as library name, okay, and you would not say np dot this. R probably uses something like double colon and the function name, but there also you need not do this. Once you have done library, you can simply call the function name. So it is slightly different from R in how it imports its modules, okay. But the basic point I am trying to do is, once you have done the basic import, with Anaconda you get these upfront, right? With other things you will have to first install it. So how do you install it? You do pip install new module. So you install once, but you import every time. So every time your session is active, you will have to import a NumPy, right? But you install it once on your machine, okay? Same thing in R, you know, you do install.packages once, but you do library every time your session is, and once you close the session, it goes. So we got Python, but we are going to use IPython notebook. So what is IPython? What does I stand for? Interim. It is created by Apple, so it is I. No, it is interactive Python. So command shell for interactive computing, multiple programming languages, not just, you know, Python itself. You can do it for Julia language also. They have just announced something that you can do it in the R kernel also, okay. The Jupyter notebook can be used for R kernel. More importantly, you can use this for notebook. What is a notebook? What is a notebook in real life? You make notes in notebooks, you store them, each notebook is distinct, you do it for organization. Now in Python, you wrote a code, output, right? But it's not that user friendly. In IPython, you have code blocks. You put this code block, then you run it. Then you get output. Based on that output, you can refine the code or you can move ahead. I will show this. This will become much clearer to you when I show it. SciPy. Let's examine some of the modules of Python that are important for data science. First is SciPy. What does SciPy stand for? SciPy is scientific Python. It is basically both an organization as well as a certain package called SciPy. Right, that was NumPy, this was SciPy. Now SciPy contains other package too, like SymPy, NumPy, Matplotlib. Matplotlib is for plotting, NumPy is for numeric operations, SciPy is for scientific libraries, SymPy is for symbolic mathematics, Pandas is for data structures. Pandas is an important part of data science using Python. And IPython, of course, is the interactive Python for our console. This makes our coding easier. This will help plot it. This will help us with numeric functions, with scientific functions. But what is the basic data structure? Pandas. So all of this would be installed by default when you install the Anaconda download. Okay, but install once, load every time, import every time. So you will have to import Pandas separately, Matplotlib separately, NumPy separately. If you imported NumPy, this will not import Panda. This is different from R. When you import, do library of a package in R, it not only loads that package, it loads the package it's dependent on, right? So it will load multiple packages. This is not the case here. NumPy. What is NumPy? Yes, it's a fundamental package for scientific computing. It contains arrays, functions, tools for integrating C, C++, useful linear algebra, Fourier transforms, random number capabilities. We will use this random number capability. You will not be able to get, and in fact you will find that native functions within Python are very limited for mathematics. So you will use NumPy even for a small thing like finding the mean. So if I give you 5 numbers, you cannot find even the mean unless you import the NumPy. Okay. So you see most of this definition is from the site itself. Come down. It can be used for container or generic data. Arbitrary data types can be defined, right? You can, these are multiple tutorials. You can install the SciPack stack here. There is a NumPy tutorial here. If you are going to do only with numbers, if you are a MATLAB user, then you have NumPy for MATLAB users, then you have functions by category. Go down, right? You will have interfacing with compiled code, which is useful to you, right? And other Python array packages, right? See, I am taking time out to introduce you because there is no point in reinventing the wheel. Why would you want to do that? It's basically the mean function. You can create the mean function by summing and dividing by the count, but why do you want to do that when there is a package here? This is important because you find that you may have a problem which is unique, but chances are because of the open source project, people would have created modules. So in something like R, people have created insurance, risk, loss reserving, n number of things. Python is slowly catching up, but Python is very powerful and we'll show you how powerful it is. Next is stat models. Right, stats models. It allows users to explore modeling. If you want to do linear regression, this is it, right? Testing, remember we used hypothesis testing, this is for it. You have linear regression, you have GLM, generalized linear models, you have other models, right? And we have a collection of data sets for examples. Stat models for modeling. Right? Next, you can see this is a screenshot of .ols. Model is equal to sm.ols. So the function is ols, right? From the stat models things, then you will get the results. So just like the LM object, here we are importing from stat models. So click on this, please. So you can see this from you do importing NumPy, then you import the stat models, then matplot, you import the plotting, right? So 3 modules have been specifically imported, right? Then if you come down, you create artificial data using random numbers, random.normal, right? In R this would be rnorm, but here it is np.random.normal, size equal to the sample, right? We add a columns of ones. Next, just hold on here. You just did sm.ols, yx. Okay, this is how easy it is, right? From sm, which is stat models, import the stat model, then the OLS function. You will get all these regression results. We will not go for this right now. We will go into this later, right? The confidence interval, the AIC, the adjusted R square, right? But this is how easy it is, right? Come down. Having done that, you would want to do what? To plot it. Now this is an example of how a notebook looks like. Code, output, okay, and we will come to the notebook when we go for the second session. Okay, so stat models, remember stat models for this is for random numbers also, and this is for OLS. Okay, also from NumPy I can do a mean. Scikit-learn, this is slightly more advanced, right? Scikit-learn is when you do machine learning, right? This is the citation. This is a scientific form of citation which says machine learning in Python by this, refers to this article, right? This is an example of different modules, different kinds of algorithms which are doing clustering, which is not clear here. Just click on scikit-learn. Okay, it is built on top of NumPy, SciPy and Matplotlib. Data mining, remember data mining we talked about, this is the one for data mining. Come down. Algorithms are SVM, nearest neighbors, random forest. I want to know what is the nearest neighbors. How do I do it? Google for it. You will get 1 million results. No, I talked about the data mining map from Saeed Syed. There you will see a succinct definition of the various algorithms that you would need. Also you can go for Wikipedia. These are credible sources. Otherwise you will be directed to many software vendors who will say, okay, this is a definition, but they will try to modify the definition. So be very clear on the definitions, like classification, regression, clustering, model selection, pre-processing. So you can see that it's in active development, but scikit-learn is your data mining package. Next, pre-processing, model, dimensionality, classification, regression, clustering. Matplotlib. What do we use Matplotlib for? What does the name suggest? Plotting. So you are going to plot something, you import the plotting module, okay? Then you can use it in Python script, and it's also used in MATLAB, you know, so that's where the name came from. We will also show you some more advanced things like Seaborn, ggplot2 with the grammar of graphics, but these are advanced. Basic plotting library in Python is Matplotlib. Seaborn is drawing statistical graphics, right? Can you just click on this link? Just come down. No, go up. So example gallery, click to the example gallery. Is specifically designed for statistical graphs. So okay, let's click on come down. Let's click on this, right? Now this is a joint plot. On this axis you are seeing the distribution in a histogram. This axis, what you are seeing is a hex bin. What a hex bin does is, in a normal plot you might have overscattering, like this point, this point, this point, but another point might be on top of it, right? So this point may have 20 and this point may be 1. So normal scatter plot you will not be able to see it, but in a hex bin this will be a hex bin, this will be a hex bin. The color intensity will show which has more, right? So this side you see a distribution, this side you see the intensity. So this is like a joint plot. Come down. Now this is again reproducible research, you know. From SciPy starts, you got this, import Seaborn as SNS, right? Then plot, joint plot X, Y, color is this, okay? Go up. Now this kind of graph just with one line of code. Probably it will take you much more time in Matplotlib, right? It's not possible. This is, so it's been designed. Let's say you have X axis, Y axis. X axis you see the distribution, Y axis you see the distribution. Here you see the interaction, but you will also see the overplotting, right? So go back to the PPT. It's not very well known, not very well used. Next, ggplot. Now ggplot is from the grammar of graphics. What is the grammar of graphics all about? What is a graph? A graph is basically axis, right? Right? Type of graph, you know, aesthetics, right? Then labels, X, Y, transformation, you want to do X or you want to do log of X, right? So basically a graph can be made, and we'll talk more on when the data visualization with R, when we do ggplot in detail. A graph is basically data plus plot type, right, plus axis plus data transformation. X, Y, right? So I am breaking it down. I can convert this into this, or I can represent this into a line. I can do this with y to x, and it's like this, or I can do it to y is to log x, then it will be a straight line, right? I can even make the plot radial. Right? This is the angle denoting something and the distance denoting something else. Right? So if these are defaulters, right? So these could be defaulters with a certain. So we'll come to this in the data visualization chapter. Pandas is our basic data structure, right? Not this pandas, right? Right? It's an open source library providing high performance, easy to use data structures, right? It's been great. Python has been great for data manipulation for a huge amount of time, but for statistics, it is lagged behind R. Why? Because Python is very flexible. It can be a list. Your data structure can be a list. It can be an array. What a data frame is, basically, this is columns, this is the rows, each row being unique. So it's a very well defined structure. That is what Pandas aims at, data frames. Before we doing this, you will have interfaces to Python. One is the console, your command line. Second is idle, right? Third is spider, and the fourth is notebook. Right. This is idle. Come back. When you do idle, if you do pd dot, it will prompt you with all the functions from pd. Okay. So it's slight improvement over the console. Next, spider. It's a bit like, you know, thing that you may have seen in RStudio. as in this is the console, this is the script window, you will have an output window as well. Something new has come up, it's called Rodeo. Rodeo is based on the ACE thing. This looks like an exact copy of RStudio, but it is not. RStudio itself is a derivative of the ACE editor, right? So Rodeo is in heavy development right now. So there might be some issues on installing it, but if you do manage to get it installed, this is one of the most advanced interface right now. Right? What is an IPython notebook? You will first run the server saying IPython notebook on the console, okay? Then it basically runs like a server. So you don't do, when you do a notebook, it's basically runs in your browser in Chrome. So a server is running locally, and then next it will ask you to create a new package, new notebook. Then you will have these things, which you saw, the code, the output, the code, the output. Before we jump into data science, we should know more about Python as a language. Next, summarizing pandas. Data frame, fast and efficient, reading and writing data, data alignment, right, and subsetting of large data sets. So go to the start window, yeah, and go to all program. Go to InThought Canopy, go to idle, right? This is the shell. Word, the word is class. Class is a keyword. So say classroom is equal to 25. Classroom to 25. Okay, this is classroom. It's 25. Let's say, right? No, just go back. 25 raised to power 2. Right. This is how we say raised to power. Two stars. Note, it is giving you the result instantly. Okay. Then do 25 percentage 2. Percentage 2. This is known as the modulo operator, right? Do 25 modulo 23. This is basically giving you the remainder. So 25 divided by 2, the remainder is more. So this is a modulo operator, percentage. Okay? And exponential is 25 raised to power. This is 2 multiplied. Now 25 multiplied by 2, that's a single. So you see the difference? Single is multiplication, twice is exponential, right? And modulo is just a percentage sign. Okay, so now do classroom.
Classroom into 2.
Classroom, this. Now do classroom. Classroom raised to the power 3. See, so you basically substituted the object with a value, right? We will come into greater depth, but what I wanted to demonstrate was just the shell console. Come to idle. Idle is open, I think. Now come to the command line. Now I am going to demonstrate how to install a package. So let's do pip install Rodeo. It's a slightly problematic package, okay? So it might have errors, but the pip install method is how we do it. Pip install Rodeo. Okay. Okay, now just shut down all the other Python things. Please shut down all the other Python things. Shut it down. Okay, now just type rodeo. Okay, so just do this, rodeo, just type it, rodeo space dot space hyphen port is equal to 4567. Okay, enter. Okay, so this is rodeo. I just want you to have a look at it. Does this remind you of something? A software you know? Yeah, because this is data frame, this is history, files, plots, packages, help, right? This is exactly the same as your RStudio. So if you're working with RStudio, to go from rodeo back to RStudio, it's quite easy. Okay? I put on notebook from close on the server. Control C. Yeah. Okay. Now just go back to the start window. All programs. Okay. Anaconda 32-bit. Notebook. So what happens is, this is a server running. All the coding that you do, you will do in the browser. Now look at this. This is files. You are able to see the files here, right? Now click on running. There is nothing running here. Currently running Jupyter, unavailable, no notebooks running. Look at clusters. Right? Go back to files. Now you will click new, because you are creating a new Python notebook. Okay? I will not click on a new Python notebook. I will open up a notebook that I have created. Basic Python exercises. I want you to print, instead of saying test equal to 10, I want you to say height in centimeters. Height is equal to, just change this. Now click on run. Okay? Type height here. Now run again. 150. Okay? Click on this. The name here, the top, which will be untitled for you, and say my first Python notebook. NB. Okay. Look, name has changed. Now go to cell. I can run and select below, I can run and insert below, run all above, right? Go to kernel. Now in this, go to change kernel. I only have Python 2 installed here, but as of now you can have Python 3 also installed and change the kernel. You can also have R, right? Our kernel is just being worked out, it is in the process. So this is a brilliant way in which you are interfacing multiple software. Okay, you can interrupt it. When will you interrupt it? When do you interrupt a program? One is shifting, second when it's running for a long time, right? Then you interrupt it, then you change the code, then you restart it or reconnect it. So don't do anything here. You got height. Now print height. Please print your own heights. right? Run here. This is interactive, this, okay? Now I want to do height modulo 3. Notice one thing, if I type the name of the object, right, or if I print the object, they seem to be the same things. I can print it, but we will come to a later stage of functions where explicit printing is necessary, okay? So height modulo 3 is 0. Why is it 0? It's divisible by 3, right? What about your height? Do height modulo 17. Height modulo 17, 14. Do your height modulo this, you will get 5. Now here I would want to do height raised to power two stars height. Now do it. Let's see what happens. Wow! See the power? This is not possible in R. Height to the power height raised to power height. It will take time. This is the point where you interrupt. In fact, this is one of those classic problems that it will take something like 3000 years to run and all those things. So you need to interrupt the kernel. Put your mouse here. Just hold on before you put the mouse here. Kernel busy. When the kernel is busy, this is filled. When you stop the kernel, just do the interrupt kernel, right? Interrupting kernel. Kernel busy. When the kernel is stopped, it will be a light circle. Right now the circle is, it's full. Just do kernel and say restart. Yes, restart. Okay, go up. See this? Kernel, put it here. Just put it here, let it over. Kernel idle. Okay. So go back here and shift, do this. So that this is known as Pythonic power. Batteries attached. You will not be able to see this in many languages. Okay. Now instead of doing this, come down. Yeah. You will have to go up again, and because you interrupted the kernel, so you have to input height again. So go up again. Yeah. So go up again. Instead of printing the height, just print this. Go to print height. Just go to print height. Run it. It says, it's not there. So now you need to redefine it. Or you can say run all. Click on run all. Suppose you have a code, right? You don't want to do it interactively again. You're very sure on the code, right? Right? So now you see the next error come because you shifted to from test to height. So then now it is giving this error. Okay, so come down. You learned modulo, right? Have you learned exponential? Come down. Put your name here. Name is equal to your name. And then run it. What is the length of your name? By len name. Put here and run it again. Right? First time you remember we put height equal to 150, but not in strings. Why? Because that was a numeric. In characters we are putting a string. There is a third type of variable which is Boolean, logical, true, false, right? So you got len as the length of the name. Now say name plus is a good guy, or name plus is something.
It's like concatenating.
Yes, it's concatenating, but concatenating is so simple, just plus. Variable plus whatever string. So you got this, right? Now I am trying to demonstrate three things: integer 7, float as 1.23, boolean as true false. Say my int. What is your favorite integer? Okay, down. My float. Dot for the decimal point. And my boolean, make it false. It has to be false or true. You don't have to write the true false in double quotes, only the character. Run it. So this is, yeah. So now do my int, my earlier one multiplied by this one, multiplied by my float. So my float into my small float, my int. Okay, just do this and then print it out and make it 2. Yeah, every time you put a code block, for it to be going into the memory, you need to run it. So make it my int 2. Yeah, my int 2 is equal to, right? So you see, you can run it. Now print my int. Let's print it again. Yeah. Okay. Now look at this function. Key sensitive. Right. Either I need to write the name of the object or print it. Okay. Secondly, what have we learned? Exponential. Modulo is, right? What is single star? Multiplication. What is 2 stars? Exponential. Third thing we learned is Python power. It can really go up to huge numbers. Okay. Okay. So let's go to def spam. Here I am going to demonstrate a slight, a slight thing which is peculiar to Python. Remember I said white space is right space? Well, you will find. So the name of the function is def, the function name. Okay. So the syntax is def function name brackets, because there is no parameter right now, then colon. So let's get into this. I want you to create a function with your name. So write def your name colon, sorry, that's the semicolon, then write x is equal to 12, then return x. Just type and run here. Expected an indented block. So whenever it encounters a colon, it is basically expecting an indentation. It forces you to do indentation. This you should get this. Come to the correct way. You see under the colon. Now do this. Right? Do this for Fareen. Print Fareen. What happens when you print Fareen? Now print your name. Print the name of the function. Now print the name. It will tell you that it's a function. Right? What if it was print Fareen 10? Fareen in brackets 10. So you have created a function here. Now what if I wanted to make my code more readable? How do I do that? Comments. Alright. A comment basically is a piece of code that is not executed. Right. It is created to make it readable. How do I write comments in Python? Hash. So I start with a hash. Put your comment here. So write a comment and execute it. But it should start with a hash. Done? How do I write a multiple line of comment? No. Put 3 quotes. My multi-line comment is long. 3 times quotes. Right? Basically, instead of putting 3 hashes, right? 3 comments, 3 quotes, 3 quotes. Why do you need to do this? You want to make your code readable. You put in version control, you put in history, who wrote the code, for what purpose is it written. No, put an enter here. This is my, okay, this is, now go to the next line, go to the next line again, after cool, okay, right, now press run. Basically that is line separator which is coming. /n is basically showing this is a line separator, right. My coding style is old. This is the number one issue I have faced. People get good, first people are learning, then when they become good in learning, what do? They stop writing comments. It is a problem when it leads to when somebody else has to read your code. When you are working in a project, when somebody else has to execute your code, when you have to document it in the future, where 6 months later you have to run the same code again and again, right? Then all your knowledge is lost unless you learn commenting. Okay? Now I want you to count, make count to as a variable and make a absurdly huge number, 20-digit number, right? And add it to another 20-digit number. Something like this, plus now run it. What has happened? You need to print the number, or should you at least write the number object name OU, just say OU, CU, okay, run it, right? Pretty cool, huh? What is L? It's a long. It's a long format. Okay? So we have learned how to make functions. We have learned how to print functions. So if you print just the function name, it will tell you it's a function. But if I put the bracket, it doesn't give me an error, it will give me the value of the function. Yeah, right. And you have learned how to make a comment. Okay, so now next is an exercise. This is a kind of exercise. I am going to say, what did you have for breakfast this morning? Sandwich. Okay. So assume you went to a restaurant. You had something right now, you know, a cigarette or something like that. Chewing gum. Okay. So whatever you had, put say in the value of breakfast. Right? Or let's say last time you went to a restaurant, put that cost. Then put the service tax as S tax, 0.14, right? Then put service charge as 0.1. Then say F&B tax as, no, look here, that is just an example. FB tax as 0.2. But I want you to change this value based on what was your bill when the last time you went to a restaurant. Then I said breakfast equal to breakfast plus this into this into this into this. So think of the logic. Breakfast plus tip plus service charge plus service tax plus the tax. So you need to multiply each of them by the breakfast amount, and then you need to add it to the breakfast. Then you need to print it. Okay? Let's say your breakfast costs you 50 rupees. Sales tax was 0.12. No, make a shorter variable name. Yeah, S tax equal to 0.12, right? Then F tax equal to 0.25. Then S charge is equal to service charge 0.1. And then finally, because you know you just returned from America, so you give 15% tip. Tip is equal to 0.15. Now tell me what was your total bill. See, it's giving you a prompt of the object. Plus S into the breakfast. See, the service tax and all, they are added to the original meal amount. Right? You can charge, it was CRG. Copy and paste SCRG, right, plus tip now do multiply breakfast and add them to both service charge and tip. So don't do it in a nested way, don't do it in an execute. So don't calculate the sales tax, then calculate the charge, calculate it at once, because all of this is calculated to the base amount, not to each successively. right? Now print breakfast. Right? So you noticed if your breakfast was 50 rupees, it came up to 81, 30, almost 60% more. Why? Just go up. Yeah. 25% plus 12%, 37 plus 10, 47 plus 15, 62. So basically this addition was a 62%. You could alternatively have done this, added this, then added 1 to it, right? Then multiplied by this. Okay? That would have made your coding easier. Why? Because you wouldn't have to write breakfast 5 times. Okay? So this is an example of how you can use, successive information. And notice the value of breakfast has changed. First it was 50, now it is 81. Okay? In this case, you were trying to look at the logic. Now you could write breakfast plus breakfast into tape plus breakfast into charge, but you could also write breakfast and do a bracket. Yeah. So you see, there are multiple ways to write the same thing. In coding, there are always multiple ways to write the same thing. An efficient coder is one who writes code in a way that is good to understand, fast to execute, and reusable. However, somebody known as Donald Knuth said premature optimization is the source of all evil. When people try to optimize too much, that is the source of all bad coding. Okay? Welcome back. In the previous session, we learned how to declare variables, right, in Python. Numeric variables, float variables, Boolean variables, string variables. Then we learned how to manipulate the variables, specifically in terms of modulo operator, specifically in terms of exponential. Then we created a small program to calculate the meal, right? And now we will go further in our journey to learn the basics of Python programming, right? Now I want you to type something which has the word isn't. So type something like, this isn't fair. Today isn't hot. Right? Within double quotes, and type it like this. Press run. Do you get an error? No? You will get an error.
Is it single quotes?
Yes, this is single quotes. Right? This is single quotes, single quotes. Why are you getting the error? It is replacing this by that it started the quote here and it ended the quote here, right? It is reading this as a quote, not as an apostrophe. What do I do for it? I escape it. Escape character is done by this. Once I escape it, it will not treat it as a special character. It will treat it as a string. Okay? So, if I say this isn't good, it will read it as, the apostrophe will be read as a string. But if I don't do that, it will read it as a quote. So escape characters are useful and important, right? You will come to other things like this, $200, 200, 200. Now to a human, these three numbers are the same, right? But to a computer, this will be a character, this will be a character, this will be a number. When that happens, you need to escape this, right? You need to escape this, right? Or you need to replace it. It will simply treat this as a character. It will basically remove the special value. Okay? So some special characters are there, right? Apostrophe is also a quote, single quote, right? No, in this case, this is okay to replace it, but if you want to read it as a number, then you will have to do something that it is read like this, because this is a character. And what is the problem with character compared to numeric variables? Numeric variables are easy to add, subtract, do operations on. Character is not so easy. Suppose you are trying to analyze some speech, right? It has many apostrophes. You will need to remove them, or you will need to negate them, right? An escape character basically escapes it. So this will be treated as nothing. This will be treated as it is. This was a special character. If there is no escape here, it will read it as single quote, and this will be an unbalanced single quote, right? You can even escape a double quote here, right? It will just treat it like that, right? Put it here, instead of this, put a double quote here. Put a double quote, right? Run, right? So you see it's escaped it. Now put a double quote here, put a double quote here, right? And a double quote here. Now run, it's escaped it, right? Now remove the escape character. Now run it. It will give an error. Why? Because this is treating this as, this is the block and this is unbalanced. Okay, got it? So that's the point. Now we are going into the date time module, right? Remember some of the modules I talked about? This is a date time module. And another module that we'll talk about later is the OS module. Why is the OS module needed? Because you want to simplify referring to the file system in the operating system. So OS is something, then date time is something. I have already used NumPy. I have introduced but not used SciPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, Seaborn, ggplot, stats models, scikit-learn. Okay, let's get to the date time. I want you to do this. From date time, import date time. So from module, import function. Right? Or from module, import star. Right? Or import module as something, MD, you know. Then you have to refer as MD dot function.
MD becomes the default name of the function.
Then yeah, so it becomes the alias. Now from date time I have imported date time only. So okay, from date time import date time. Now print now is equal to date time dot now. print it. Now print now dot year. Now in a separate age, print your let's say put age is equal to your age. Okay, put age is equal to your age. Okay, now put now dot year. You will see it is taking the year part, right? Put now dot month. Right, to 6. Now put now dot year minus age. What is this? Year of birth. Right? Why do we need date? We need date as a number to calculate age. Our age, the age of my bank deposit, right? So that I can calculate interest on it. The age of a certain asset, so I can calculate depreciation for it. Now come down. You can look at this. I would want you to just do this exercise. Current year equal to now dot year. So instead of current year, I want you to say birth year. Right? So put at birth underscore year equal to now dot year minus age. Put birth month as your original birth month. And put birthday as your original birthday. But note, you could refer to now dot month and now dot day the same way you got the now dot year. Okay? Right? Now print birth year, birth month, birthday. Run it. You got this? Birth year? No, it's now dot year minus age. Okay? So you are born in this date, 2/8/1994. Now you want it to be represented in the same format. Okay? So go down. Yeah? You want it to concatenate. So you will use a bit of magic, Print percentage s slash percentage s slash percentage s. Within this, what are this percentages? This basically says I want a parameter here, and within the parameter I can put birth year, birth month, birth day, birth year. So this is your birthday. But how did you get this? These are the delimiters.
You have to write that S also?
Yes, the S basically is saying this is a parameter. Now let's do one more thing. Print S, print one more ampersand S, right? And just say in front of this, put it the birthday of, just write something within quotes, within these quotes, the birth, no escape, the birthday of ampersand S is space is, right? Now here in the here put your name in quotes, right, comma. Now run it again. So you got it. This is a parameter. $S is a percentage S is a How am I invoking the parameters? By percentage again. So the birthday of percentage s is percentage s, percentage s, percentage s, right? Within this I am invoking these parameters. This basically says I am asking for a parameter, and that parameter will be following the percentage sign, right? Let's re-examine this again. First of all, what do I need? I am saying print command, right? Then I am doing single quotes here, right? Then I am doing a percentage here to invoke the parameters, and I say x, y, z, percentage s, a, b, c, percentage x, right? Within this I say a, b. So it will print what? Right? This, for the first percentage s is replaced by the first parameter in the brackets. The second percentage s is replaced by the second one. I want to print this. Print your date of birth with now's hour, month. Here, today's hour, month, right now, the hour, month, second in this format. And is birthday dot month, birthday dot year, birthday dot birthday month, birthday day, birthday year, but now dot hour, now dot minute, now dot second. Run. Okay. That's how the output should be, something like this. Let's do logical operators. Okay. Come down. What is the value of this? How to read this? 20 plus 17. On the left side is 37. On the right side is 3 to the power 16. What does 2 equal to means? Is this equal? Is it saying is the left side equal to right side? Why will it come false?
It's not equal.
1, they are not equal. Plus 3 to power 6. This is 3 to power 6, not 3 into 6, right? So if the 37 is of course, so if you just run this, please run this. You just go up and run this. 20 plus 7 here, yeah, and run this. It should be false, right? And if you replace the equal to sign by less than, just replace it by less than, not equal to this, okay, then it's true. This is it equal to, and this is not is equal to. The exclamation sign is not, right? And double equal to means is equal to, is basically checking, but it's not a numeric, it's turned into a Boolean operator, right? And this is true, T, big T, RUE. Okay, go down. What about this? 100 not is equal to 9 to power 2. True? Okay, go down. 100 not is equal to 10 to power 2. False, yes. What about 100 less than 11 to power 2? True, right? So you see how we can put this true, and we can also put this true and false for other conditions to follow, or for other parts of the program to come in. Okay, so this is how Boolean operators help make your program even more, better, in terms of you can run or not run a particular part of your program, a sub block of your program, based on certain conditions. Okay, Boole is true. Why?
Or it's all conditional.
Because the OR condition is executing. It's true again. True again. So basically what this condition says is it will evaluate this answer for true or false, and if true then it goes for. So this is how the if condition works. If condition is true, returns true, then do something else, do something else, right? This is the basic structure of a logic statement, right? If then else. So if I was to change it and say name put with whatever your name is, and say if name 0 A, then print nice name. Put your name here and see what comes up. Right? Now instead of putting A, replace it with the first letter of your name, and please make sure it's case sensitive. Please make sure it's case sensitive. So instead of A, replace it with the first letter of your name, and please make sure it's case sensitive. So if you done big S for Sarah, then that should be. So yes, you see this condition, name is equal to Sarah. If name 0 equal to S, then print nice, right? Basically, what is this thing doing? It's looking at the first letter and say if the first letter is S, then print nice, right? Now if replace it with the A again, now run it again. Notice the indentation, if, then the indentation. So the column has come in, after if, right? So it will print it only if the first letter is A. Now put this name as Ajay with a big A, right? Print nice, and let it be small a. Okay. Now what do you think is going to happen? Is it going to print A? No. Why? Because this is a big caps. This is small cap. Now put name 0 dot lower. Dot lower equal to small a. Right? So I can convert case using lower and upper, right? In a string function, I can say string dot lower will convert that string to lower case, and string dot upper will convert it to uppercase, right? If you say print nice, this is, instead of putting print, can you just put it in brackets? Run it. Yeah, so it works the same way, right? But for you it is explicitly requiring the brackets, right? So what is this? What is this format? It refers to a particular position of the string. So if the name is AJAY, right, then AJAY, this is 0, it starts with 0. In R it will start with 1. This is 1, 2, 3, right? So what is name dot 3? Yes, which is the fourth letter, right? So you can refer to particular parts of the ref. Look at this. Try and do this. Yeah. Expected at indented block. So this was what happens if you don't indent it. Okay. Come down here. X equal to healthy. What if I over indent something? Put extra space, right? Well, look at this. Def test, right? If answer is eggs, then return healthy, else return delicious. So I do test. It is returning delicious. Why? Because answer is not defined here. Where is answer? Can you just print out answer? Right, test delicious, come down to the next line. Scroll down, yes, answer, not. Answer is God, right? God is not equal to eggs. Remember, it is retaining the value, right? Now, let's come and try and redefine this. If answer is God, return healthy. Now run it. Okay. Now run test. Yes. So this condition is being evaluated, then, but there is no end to the if. Let's take a small example of, just go up. Right. Now look at this function. I have defined a function, right, but within brackets I have put in a parameter. So I have said answer is there, right. This parameter, whenever I am calling this function, this needs to be specified in the bracket. This parameter, it will be called answer. Once answer is specified, it says if answer is greater than 5, then return 1. Answer is less than 5, return -1, else return 0. Then I will run this function on 4, 5, 6. So here the value of answer is no. What is the value of answer? 4, right? Is answer greater than 5? No. Answer is less than 5? Yes. So it will be -1, right? What is answer is 5? Answer is greater than 5? No. Goes to the next LF. It is LF, which is a combination of else and if. Answer is less than 5, again no, else returns 0. So answer can either be, a number can be greater than 5, less than 5 or equal to 5, right? Right? So this is how you do it. Just run this code. Yeah, so you see for 4 this is -1, for 5 this is 0, because this is the answer return which is being returned. Now I want you to redo this. Go up. Please go up. Instead of the def, the function being named this, put your name in it, all of you, right? Instead of this being answer, put age in it. Replace, in this function, replace answer with age in all points, right? And instead of greater than 5, make it 26. 26. Right? Now, instead of printing this function name, call this with your name. right? Now I want you to put your age as well as the age of 2 other people in class. So just put your age as well as some random numbers. Okay? Now run it. So if it is greater than 26, it should be +1. If it is greater than, if it is less than 26, it is -1, and if it is just 26, it should be 0. Now you put your age. This is a very simple program, and what we have done is we have created a logic using if, elif, else. We have used the colon to mark the code blocks. We use white space indentation. We have created the function using def, and we have created the parameter using the brackets. When we call the function, we just say print function name and the value of the parameter. Here this is the parameter whose condition is being called here, right? Here this is the value of age. Okay? Instead of saying print Sara 41 or doing the brackets, I just put Sara 41. Just remove print. Right? So it is evaluating the last one, right? Remove this, remove Sara 26. Now it's evaluating the last one, right? Now comment, yeah, it is going to return you the last number. Now let's go to the next section in which we are changing the case of the strings. We do name dot lower, we'll make it lowercase, dot upper, will make it uppercase, right? But notice one thing, the way I am putting predefined functions is object name dot fun. Okay, this is the object name. This is an important distinction from R, where it will almost always be like this, function and in brackets object name, right? Now let's do an interesting exercise. I want you to do this. Consider raw input. Raw input is something that looks for input from the user. Okay? So say change this to name, or let's say surname. Enter your surname, SUR, surname. If length of this object is greater than 0, it will print welcome to class plus your surname, else it will print empty. So just do this. First is I have declared this raw input. This is the statement, this is just printed here, but whatever is raw input is equal to first name, right? Then from the next it will evaluate the if else condition. So if whatever I have input is greater than 0 in terms of length, and I have inputted something, then it will say welcome to class plus concatenated the name. Otherwise it will print empty. Note the indentation. Okay, just press enter, right? So it will say welcome to class Farheen. Important point, raw input, right? Indentation for if and else, and using length greater than 0 as a condition. Why? We don't want missing values, we don't want blank spaces. Now I am going to create a huge first name. Let's say Alexander, right? Person in history. Now what is this value 6. This is the +1 values. So this is the 7th letter in Alexander, right? And because the number starting from 0, so what is the first value? A. But it will be the within 0, and look at this brackets. These are square brackets. These are not curly brackets. Okay. This is basically indexing of a particular string. Okay. Now let's do square roots. Okay. What is the answer to this command? Right. Why is this an error? The name square root is not defined. What does this mean? The function square root is not there in the space. So what do we need to do is, we need to import a specific module. What is our specific module? Math, right? We have imported math as empty.
So what is the difference between this syntax and the syntax which you told previously, like from module and import?
Okay. So as empty, look, let's do this. Now the square root function is coming. Now let's do one thing. Kernel restart. Now let's do empty square root. Why? Because I need to run this. So let me do this. From math, import math. Okay, right? This cannot import the name math, but what if I say sqrt, right?
You have to execute this one now.
Right? So this is basically playing with how you want to separate your functions for the readability of the code, and you want to say where this function is coming from, right? Now let's go to list. Please tell me your, yes, that's once again your height, right? Well, let's be honest, let's not be too honest, right? So this is new list. Okay, what is the mean? Notice the list is created with square brackets. So what is the length of the list? How will I find it? Number of people?
Number of elements.
LEN, right? There are 7 people in this list. Now can I do average? Okay. Oh my god, I am trying to do data science, I am not even able to find average. So what should I do? Average, no mean. Mean is also not defined. So what should I do? Import from math. Import from math. So import math as empty. So I am saying empty, and this time empty dot mean, right? Module object has no attribute mean. It basically means I have called the wrong library, right? Module object. So earlier the error was coming,
The function was not defined.
it's not defined, but now it says
X doesn't.
that module doesn't have it, because I am explicitly referring to a module. So I need to import the correct module. The correct module in this case is NumPy. So I am importing NumPy as NP, and then NP dot mean new list. Right?
And
So
multiple modules have the same function.
sometimes they have, in, if they have, then you can distinguish them between them using, you know, np.mean or mt.mean. That is where it becomes really good to define the module name. They can have, yes. You can have clustering in multiple ways from multiple modules, right? Now R, when it does that, is R will simply suppress some functions, right? What about standard deviation? What is the function for standard deviation? ST? STD. That's it. This is the standard deviation. Notice the, you know, but look at the max and min functions. The max and min functions, they are native to Python. You need not import a module. Right? 154 to 182. Length of new list 7. Again going back to characters, name is not defined. Why is it not defined? I had defined it.
You had interrupted.
That's right. When I interrupt it, I lose all the variables. When the kernel restarts, I lose all the variables. Therefore, I need to go to cell and say run all. Now you can see the kernel is busy. Now here it's waiting for an input, right? And it will keep running till it finds an error, right? Why? Because my first name is
Empty.
empty. No, it's not empty. It's space, 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 space.
It was in space. You just hit enter.
Right. Substring. One more thing. Let's say I have a particular piece of this string that I want to find in a huge bunch of text. Let's say I want to call Ajay. Right? I use the substring in string function. So this basically says, is Ajay somewhere there in this string? This can be PAN number. This can be.
But how about the
Uppercase, lowercase. Oh, we can
No.
always convert it to singular.
Yeah. So you can also, let's do this. Let's call this Ajay. False, right? Now I can say substring dot lower in string dot lower. What is this going to do? This will convert both into lowercase, then find it out, right? This marks the conclusion of this exercise in basic Python.